So when we finish our talks on Sundays, Natalie and I and whoever, we have a guest speaker, invariably we get some calls from people who were invited, specifically one lady, I'm thinking, she was invited by her friend. You ought to watch this unity stuff. And she said, I think I finally found somebody more crazy than I am. And I've been accused a big part of my life of being crazy because I believed in UFOs before they were an open topic for discussion. I didn't go along with tinfoil hat people and what have you. I just figured there was other beings and other planets and other dimensions, and the more I got into unity, I realized that I believed that even more. I believe that each of us, each and every one of us, is a divine being, a spiritual being. Jesus said, ye are gods, and you know not. We are gods, and we know not. And part of what we do here at Unity is try to empower you to believe just how incredibly powerful and important you are to the scheme of things. You matter so much. And I'm looking at Linda over here, and bless your heart, sweetheart. We loved Richard and still love Richard. He is ongoing. I believe he's probably standing right by you right now. That's how we believe in unity, and you can always talk to them. I know you said the other day when Natalie talked to me that you miss him absolutely, but you can speak with him like he's here. Yeah, so bless your heart. We support you in your ongoing grieving process. We celebrate Richard's life. So, Don Shell taught us about Akashic records. I had heard about Akashic records a long, long time ago. But when Don came on scene, he knew about Akashic records, then he was teaching people. He had classes in it. And he could tell you better than I can. However, just know this. Every thought without exception that you have ever thought is recorded. It is like talked into a tape recorder in a video, VCR, whatever, all your life. Every thought, every word, every deed is all recorded. And we are responsible for all of it. In our job at Unity, we try to get you to understand, and we're still trying to understand. We don't know it. And just hear this, we have no dogma, we don't have anything you have to believe. I mean, I might not know what I'm talking about. And lots of times that changed my... I see Christy shaking her head. Don't you do that. Charles Fillmore, famous with Myrtle Fillmore, his wife, co-founders of Unity, prolific authors that wrote back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, what have you. And he was teaching a class one day at Unity, and some student said, well, I'll tell you what I believe, and he yada, 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 yada. And Charles Fillmore says, well, it's okay for you to believe that, but I don't believe that. Where did you get that from? And the student said, well, I got it out of one of your books you wrote, Mr. Fillmore. And he said, oh, yeah, I remember. That's what I believed years ago. I've grown beyond that now. I don't believe that anymore. So just know you have a right and even a duty to change your mind as you get your own guidance to change your mind. I remember going to an Orthodox church. One thing I don't want to do, I don't want to degrade any other belief system. It can espouse mine, but this, I remember this minister telling people, don't question. Do not question God. Believe or be damned. Don't question. God works in mysterious ways, and it's not for yours to know. Well, that challenged me to say, well, why am I giving a thinking brain? Why did Jesus said not ask? So I didn't believe this person or any people like him. So don't allow other people to tell you what you should believe. Don't let anyone, regardless, including myself. I believe everything Natalie says, but you don't have to. So anyway, again, we're all in the Akashic records, and we are really responsible for all that we do. So the idea of reincarnation came up, and we had this conversation with this lady that called, and she was all excited. in fact from another state, so not likely she could come here. But she said, that makes sense to me. It just makes sense to me. And that's what it did for me when I heard of reincarnation. I couldn't get that a loving God would give you one chance and one chance only, and you better do it good and you better do it right, or else you're going to hell, and if you're lucky you come to heaven. And I just couldn't believe that, a loving God. Jesus said, God is love, period. And I have to believe that. Have to believe that. That leaves no room for God is vengeful. God is a mean, wrathful God. To me, that's man-made stuff to get you into the fear of believing the way they tell you to believe. So I believe, too, that when I look around me, and I'm talking about, remember I used to think a long time ago, why is this person this person's bright, pretty, handsome, rich, lots of nice things, great education, and why was this little baby born with spina bifida and will probably die before it's a year or two old? Why is this person over here, who's mentally ill, handicapped in such a tremendous way with brain damage, why are they like that, and why can I think with a clear mind most of the time? What's the difference? What did they do? What did I do? How do I deserve that? Am I better than that person? All these things used to go through my mind. And then I have to believe that there's a reason. God has a reason for everything that God has done. By the way, God, Jesus never used the word God. The word God didn't come into play until the 15th century. It's from a German word meaning good. So Jesus never used that. He used Father, because I had somebody say, well, Jesus said God. Archie Bunker said, remember Archie Bunker? He said, well, why isn't he a good white Christian man like Jesus was? And which is funny, because Jesus was not a Christian. Christianity did not evolve until, I don't know, 80 years after he died. So, oh, and another thing too, I skipped around a lot, but I want to, hell. There's no translation of hell. The Bible, Jesus spoke Aramaic. The Bible is transcribed into either Greek or Hebrew. And there is no Greek or Hebrew word for hell. And what they used that as a substitute for a trash dump called Gehenna. And where they used to dump the dead bodies of criminals. And they burned up in that trash bin. And so that's confused with, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you will go to hell, which was an English translation. Again, they could not transcribe that literally from the Hebrew or the Greek, in either the New Testament or the Old Testament back here. So, again, why is this baby like this, and why is this baby like that, and why is it? I believe that, it says, we're all created equal. Well, I believe that we're all created equal, but I don't believe we're all born equal. Because we're created in a higher realm. We come from out there, from whatever you want to say, from heaven, from other dimensions. Well, let me say this. Does anyone not believe that there is this little baby in the womb, and I believe at first breath there was a soul that established itself into that child, just like you and me? Does anybody not believe that? Well, if you believe that, you believe in incarnation. The word is incarnation. You believe that baby was incarnated, that soul was incarnated in that body. So it looks like we all believe in incarnation, sure. Well, Voltaire said, well, if God did it once, what's so crazy about thinking that God could do it twice? Meaning that when we leave this body, I want to show that video. When we leave this body, we are at a time of learning on the other side. We'll go into that maybe another talk. But we come back into another baby's body. It's called reincarnation. I mean, if you did it once, you already did it once, you did it twice. I believe you've lived hundreds of lives. I believe we have lived hundreds of lives in other planets, other dimensions, This is not our first rodeo, folks. And I guess I can say, how does... I want to read that instead, because I can't say it as well as this. My first book, when I got into Unity, was called Discover the Power Within You. We're not in the business of selling books here, so I'm not selling anything, but you can get it on Amazon or something. Before we go into that video, I'm not trying to push anything down your throat. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just relaying what I believe and being open to the fact that I might not be right. So if you want to find out whether that is right for you, I suggest you get into meditation, contemplation, prayer. Immerse yourself into learning more. Ask your higher self, your guides, your angels, what is truth? What is truth for me? Because my truth is not your truth. So I don't expect you to accept what I say as your truth. But I would ask you to investigate yourself. Learn more about yourself, that deepest part of you. And you'll find out that your higher self will answer you. I have something here that I remember reading this when I was studying. It says, Orthodox Christianity is taught that birth is the beginning of life. That death is but a step for our eternal existence, which is no real purpose at all. Life down here is only a preparation for our future bliss to come up here. So, talking about the little babies that I talked about, how do we account for the great inequality among men while we are told that all men are created equal? God, then, is not a God of justice and fairness? Are we supposed to arrive at the same goal in life, even though we start at different levels? It would appear that some have a head start, while others commence with a handicap. Some are born with a silver spoon in their mouths, while others are born on the wrong side of the tracks. Some are born with normal, healthy minds and bodies, while others are born crippled or blind with brain damage. Where is the justice? I'm not going to read over here. And as far as this, what of amazing feats of a child prodigies? Is there any other explanation for Mozart, who played a concert on the harpsichord at the age of 5? And he toured Europe at age 6? What about Sir William Hamilton? He learned Hebrew at 3 years old, fluently. At 13, he could speak 13 languages. Is this an accidental grouping of genes that makes a child far in advance of men and women who have slaved for years in the field? If so, life seems to be so whimsical at first. Now, this is what I remember reading in the Bible when I was trying to figure it out, still trying to figure it out, that Jesus said, become perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Now, does anybody that you know achieve perfection? Maybe Don, but no. Well, how would you do that in one life? That means we're all falling short of that promise that Jesus made. Become perfect as become perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. So it would take many lifetimes to do so, lifetime after lifetime. Now, and I'm looking forward to one of the things when we move into our new place. If you don't know where it is, talk to Natalie. She'll tell you. But a bunch of us met down there, and it's coming along fine. We'll have a very large room to gather and to do things. And finally, we can have classes. Finally, we can have classes we can do during the week. This place is available only on Sundays to us, and it's only available until the end of August. We have to be out of here. And we will be in our new place by then, hopefully not too long from now. But we'll have classes, we're going to have films, we're going to have movies. I want to show some of these ancient alien films. Has anybody seen Ancient Aliens on TV, or am I the only alien here? Very interesting, very, very, very interesting. So again, I don't think I'd make a good Toastmaster because I skip around a lot. And I say, look, here's some of the believers in reincarnation. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but I want to get Benjamin Franklin. He wrote and distributed versions of his own epitaph. He said, the body of Benjamin Franklin, printer, like the cover of an old book, its contents torn out, and the script of its lettering and gilding lie here, food for worms. But the work will not be wholly lost. For if he will, he believed that it appeared once more in a new, more elegant edition, revised and corrected by the author. Voltaire said, is that not more surprising to be born twice than once? George Eliot said, our deeds still travel with us from afar, and what we have been makes us what we are. Of course, I said, I am certain I have been here before. In fact, I have been here 1,000 times before, and I hope to return another 1,000 years. Tolstoy said, so is our present life only one of many thousands of such lives which we enter from the other, more real life, and then we turn to death? Henry Ford. Nate used to work for Ford. I think he knew him personally, I'm not sure. He didn't guess it. Henry Ford said, I adopted the theory of reincarnation when I was 26. Work is futile if we cannot utilize the experience we collect in one life and take it into the next. He said, when I discovered reincarnation, it was as if I found a universal plan. Finally, time was no longer limited. I was no longer a slave to the hands of the clock. Genius is experience. It is the fruit of long experience in many lives. The discovery of reincarnation put my mind at ease, finally. Carl Jung said, I could well imagine that I might have lived in former centuries and there encountered questions that I was not yet able to answer. But I had to be born again because I had not fulfilled the task that was given to me. Just one word. Mark Twain said, I have been born more times than anyone else except Krishna. Walt Whitman said, and as you life, I reckon you are leaving many deaths. No doubt I have died 1,000 times before. Now, where is that folded paper? John, take your time. Thank you, Jim. Just a couple more here because I think it's... Thomas Edison said, the only survival I can conceive is to start a new earth cycle again. Khalil Gibran said, a little while, a moment of rest upon the wind, and another woman shall bear me. I'm not going to read all these. Here are some present-day people, some might have passed in here, that believe in reincarnation. Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, Sylvester Stallone, Stevie Nicks, Keith Urban, John Wayne, Kit Beckinsale, Steven Seagal, Patrick Swayze, Miley Cyrus, Lady Gaga, John Lennon, Yoko, Tina Turner, St. Augustine, St. Francis of Assisi, Cicero, Seneca, Pythagoras, Plato, Socrates, Schopenhauer, Hume, Emerson, Longfellow, George Patton, Browning, Edgar Cayce, W.E. Henley, Unity's co-founder Charles Myrtle, Ernest Holmes with Science of Mind, Nikola Tesla, and Barry Terwilliger and Natalie Lehman. So how are we doing on our time here? So, again, this is not to try to convince you of something that you don't believe in. If you don't believe it, that's okay. It's okay. You're still a divine being and you still go to the highest level. Nobody goes to hell as far as a place where you are under the auspices of the devil and all this stuff like that. It's all the story, it's all the myth. You see this until 593. Before that, the ancient early Christians did believe in reincarnation, and they taught it. But Justin, what was it? Can't think of his name. Justinian, he wanted it out of there because he said, and they actually had a fist fight at the Council of Nicaea in 593, because they said, take that stuff about reincarnation out of the Bible. Why? Because if people think that they can just come back again, they won't believe us. They won't listen to us. They won't obey us. We need to threaten them. We need to bring in fears. We need to create something that we can tell them, you'll go to hell if you don't do this. Bring in the money, bring in the goods, bring in this, and we'll pray for you. You can't pray for yourself now. We'll pray. We're the conduit between You and God. So we'll pray for you if you tidy up. And so they created this devil and hell and Satan and all this. Unity says that Satan is our surface mind that tries to think it's separate from God. And none of us are separate from God. You cannot be, because God is you. I know Mom said, don't worry about the time. Oh, yeah. Sure, this. Thank you. I can shut up now. Just grab one of them, I think. Thank you.
I expect that reincarnation is true. After you leave your body on this existence, then you go into some other realm. And after some length of time has elapsed on this earth plane, for some reason you choose to go back. There is a conscious process in selecting the life that you're going to lead. And that you consider different alternatives, and then that you choose someone that I gather that you learn something from.
Reincarnation is a concept that stretches deep into our history and is the central tenet for many pagan and Indian religions, including Buddhism and Hinduism. Billions of people around the world still believe in the idea of rebirth. But is there any scientific evidence to support such claims?
So what they've done is to collect thousands of case studies that support the idea that these kind of past life experiences are vividly remembered and are even correlated with some kind of physical birthmark.
If reincarnation is real, then what might its purpose be? Why do souls repeatedly incarnate?
The soul is required to evolve. It's almost like as a soul, we're required to come into body and we're required to learn. And learning isn't easy.
The implications of reincarnation are no less than profound and could answer some of the big questions humans have been asking since the dawn of time. Who are we and why are we here?
In the United States, there's this myth that ideas about reincarnation first came into the West through India back in the 19th century. But that's just simply not correct, because reincarnation was present as an idea at the very beginning of Western civilization.
Scholars agree the concept of reincarnation is rooted in antiquity. For example, the Neanderthal buried their dead along with their instruments and food for future lives. And the idea of rebirth continued into Western civilization and was famously taught by the man who coined the term philosophy, Pythagoras.
Pythagoras, for example, who was the person who coined the term philosophy, was a reincarnationist, and he claimed to remember 8 of his past lives and had some technique that he was able to get his students to have that experience as well.
Past life regressions can be a contentious topic among practitioners of psychology. The evidence and accounts are overwhelming, but there's debate as to what they really are. Dr. Ian Stevenson was a well-respected psychologist and was the chair of the Department of Psychology at the University of Virginia. He was given a $1 million grant to fund research into paranormal psychology, also known as parapsychology, with the intention of disproving the concept of reincarnation. Stevenson went on to research thousands of cases on the uncanny memories of young children from their past lives. While his intention was to disprove this phenomenon, in the end, he became one of its staunchest defenders and most dedicated researchers. Today, Dr. Jim Tucker continues to conduct the work started by Stevenson. Unlike past life regressionists, Dr. Stevenson and Dr. Tucker do not study those put under hypnosis. Instead, they look at cases of kids who start to spontaneously remember things and start speaking about their previous lives while fully cognizant. In one of Tucker's papers, he recounts a story of a boy from Thailand who at the age of 3 started complaining that he had been shot and killed in his past life while riding a bicycle to school. He even remembered that he was a local teacher, and he remembered his name, Bois Kai. His grandmother took him to the village where he said he lived, and he led her to a house. He recognized the people living there, and they confirmed that 5 years earlier, their son, Bois Kai, had been shot and killed while riding a bike to work. He was shot in the back of the head, marked by a small entry wound, with a larger exit wound in the front of his head. The little boy had been born with a small birthmark on the back of his head, and a larger, oddly shaped mark on his forehead.
It happens a lot with children, and at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, they have documented thousands of these cases. So you can say, you can't make this happen in a laboratory setting, but what you can do is create enough evidence that it becomes something meaningful from a scientific point of view. And that's what we have in terms of the evidence for reincarnation.
There are two primary ways people recall past lives. One is spontaneously, like in the case of so many children who suddenly remember memories in great detail. Number two is hypnotherapy, where a patient is put under hypnosis and then guided by a trained regression therapist into recalling previous lifetimes.
It surprises people how easy it is to access the first scene in a past life. And then it's the job of a trained regression therapist to know how to open it up, how to ask questions, how to deepen it, but also it moves forward spontaneously. I don't give the information to the client, they tell me the information.
If reincarnation is real, then what is its purpose? Dr. Linda Bachman, psychologist and regression therapist, has guided hundreds of patients into their past lives and may have the answer.
The past lives explain something in current life, because the past lives have a direct connection to life today. They explain something we're working on to change in life today, which is what we call karma. They also can explain a relationship, a phobia, a physical symptom. The soul is required to evolve, and we're required to learn. So we gather karma, and we also gather dharma, and that's what we're working on in our current life. Karma is a free will decision we made in a past life that perhaps wasn't the best decision. It's not a permanent black mark on your soul. It's something you can balance in a subsequent life. You have a life plan, life intentions, and then you basically come in with free will.
Many humans experience profound suffering during their lifetime. So why would a soul choose to come into body knowing it will be painful?
It's perfectly plausible to me that from the framework outside of this one, we would choose to come into it knowing that we were going to be having a certain kind of suffering, because we know from that framework that it's time limited, that you'll be out of it. But then once you get into this framework, see, that knowledge is blocked, so that you're faced there with the raw suffering without the insight, maybe the event that you chose it in the first place, but also that it will be over.
One of the most fascinating parts of reincarnation is the idea of a soul group, or a group of souls that choose to incarnate together.
I know this from client after client after client, where what they come upon at times at the soul level of a regression is a group of souls with whom they incarnate repetitively. So simply put, I like to call it a soul pod. A soul pod means most of us have about 10 to 20 souls with whom we incarnate most often. If you're the parent and there's a child, you made an agreement at the soul level to be parent and child. You came together for a reason.
Throughout many regression therapy sessions, patients not only recall previous human lives, but the lives of intelligent, off-planet alien species.
I'm regressing a lot of clients in the last 10 to 12 years who discover their interplanetary souls, meaning they don't regularly come here. They come here on occasion, and they come to Earth, if I oversimplify the explanation, because they're highly evolved, and they come from evolved, healthy locations. They come to teach us how how to progress as humanity. I have clients that begin, I'm intending to guide a past life regression, and the first scene is literally in a spaceship. And, some listeners might go, oh, well, the client was just making that up. The level of detail and the level of not only the detail of the ship, we get literal physical detail of what materials is it made from, and what do the controls look like. The chain of command on the ship is explained. The interrelationships of the chain of command on the ship is explained. There's far too many details, in my opinion, to be made up.
Matthias Di Stefano, host of Initiation, claims to remember his past lives as different ETs. Like other interplanetary souls, he is here on a mission to teach our intergalactic history and to help raise consciousness as humanity progresses into a new age.
When I was 11, 12 years old, I started to remember my lives, and of course I thought many times I was getting crazy until I started to find many others that also remember everything that I am doing in my life. It's aligned to my mission to go all around the world and to connect all these nodes of energy and to share and teach people about my memories is something I live in balance with.
Reincarnation is a concept embedded in our history and culture, with profound implications regarding our purpose and evolution as individuals and as a species. While scientific evidence is hard to quantify, according to those who remember their past lives, our soul's evolution is akin to an epic science fiction narrative, where the soul learns and grows over billions of years through multiple species throughout this universe and beyond.
I gather that there must be ways that you can tap into these memories of past lives. However, I do respect the Tibetan tradition that says you probably better leave it alone. And the reason is, Plato said a similar thing. If at every moment in our waking life we were flooded with all this information from past lives, it would make it more difficult to concentrate on this task at hand.
So I'll go back to where I was with why is this person like this, and this person like this person born on that side of the tracks, this person born on that side of the tracks. And I told you about the Akashic records. Everything's been recorded. And how we treat, Jesus said, love one another as I love you. The most important thing we need to do is to be able to love ourselves and love ourselves enough to love other people. Because whatever we put other people through, negative or positive, we will experience how that feels. So I had a friend in Las Cruces when I was a minister there. He was born blind, Joaquin. And he was born blind, and he just wondered why. And he went into these people were in town, and they were a couple of psychologists working with New Mexico University, and they had different credentials, on and on. He went in there and he said, the guy that came in, he was laying on a couch kind of thing, and they brought the guy in because they didn't want him to know anything about his life. He didn't even know he was blind. So you have a man laying on the couch who's blind. This guy doesn't know. This guy goes into a trance for meditation. He says, at this certain point in a previous life, you threw acid in your girlfriend's face and you blinded her. And then when you got on the other side from that life, your guides and teachers lovingly, this is not punishment, this is it, you have to experience that. So you're going to experience a life and you will be blind. But you must get the compassion, the depth of compassion, so you can understand how what you did destroyed, if you will, another person's life. So you will live that, and the best thing you can do is to remember this, and so you can work with this. And he did. He learned, and he got into this thing about, I knew Joaquin when I was a minister to a Unity church there. When he came in, and he said, he said, I understand now, I understand. And since Christy's here, I'm going to tell you a little thing. He was a massage therapist. And he chose that because it was something he could do, he was good at. And he would bring people in, and they would not necessarily have to declothe because he was totally blind. So no one worried about it. And so he would do massages on. And he said, one time he said, I got a kick out of talking about his blindness. And he was trying to tell everybody, watch what you do in this life. Forgive, love unconditionally. Follow the teachings of Jesus. And he said, in the middle of it, he said, oh, wait a minute. I'm being healed now. I can see. He said, that person just jumped out of bed and covered up anyway. Coming from him, I thought it was pretty funny. Oh well. Where are we in time? Pretty good. Wrap it up. Okay. So anyway, I guess that's it. Unity is centered around the teachings of Jesus, the Christ. We don't know everything Jesus said in the Bible, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago that if you counted all the words, if you open up the New Testament, and you counted all the words that Jesus said, it came to less than 2,000 words, if you read it all. And we speak in a day, average, 7,000 words. Wow. So we speak at 7,000 words, and all the teachings that Jesus from his ministry, when he came back, I believe from India and Pakistan and Africa, and he learned a lot through that too. That's getting off track, but anyway, we don't know everything he said. A lot that he said wasn't written down until years later, like 80 years later. It was all verbatim. It was all oral teachings. So we don't have all those. But they are all in the Akashic records. Right, Don? It's everything. So it is retrievable. It is retrievable. And if you have a question, you go into it and you have a question, you're wondering about Jesus. Because was he a real character? Was he? Absolutely, I believe that totally. And he was able to, I believe, he had a totally open third eye, his pineal gland, and he could do all kinds of things. And that's why he said, the things I do, you can do also. Not in our normal state, we're not ready for it, but it's a growth. We need to grow into that. By opening up our pineal gland, our third eye, we can do the things. He was able to walk in a crowd, and then when he was being attacked by the Pharisees, he would just disappear. And the Bible said he was walking with them. And these Pharisees, they approached, but alas, he was no longer among them. They looked around. He had all the clairvoyance. He could dematerialize. He could rematerialize. All these things he did, we can do. It's about staying on the path. It's about being true. It's about being the best edition of ourselves we can possibly be. And that for me is the hardest thing in the world. I have to work on it every day, and I win every day, I fail every day. Because I forget. So ultimately, somebody said, why did you get into ministry? Because that was the last thing a lot of people expected me to do. And I figured out, I said, you know what? If I wasn't here, I wouldn't have to make myself accountable. Because I could just go on. But if I'm going to be a minister or call myself a minister, I've got to at least try to act the part, act enthusiastic, and you'll be enthusiastic, is what Carnegie said. I have to act the part until I become the part. And I've got such a long, long, long way to go. So that's why we look at you people as peers. We don't look at Nellie and I don't look at we're this and we're up here. That's not it. I had a Methodist minister say to me one time, don't let your congregation see you fail. Don't let them think you're weak. You can't let them see you weak, you can't be. I said, where do you come from? In other words, you're telling me to be phony, to lie? I said, I am weak. I'm strong a lot too, but I am weak in so many ways. And so I'm not going to stand up and lie to people like you. Oh, I don't lie. I said, oh, okay, thank you. End of conversation. And I remember one more thing. When I was in Tulsa, I was associate minister in Tulsa, and I lived right down the road from the Oral Roberts University with the praying hands. And I remember going into some coffee shops in the area, and you would be challenged. These people would come up to you and say, do you believe in Jesus? Have you been saved? Have you been saved? And I was a real smart ass back then. I'd say, well, yes, from everybody except people like you. And you come up to me and you try to push yourself. I said, well, Jesus. I said, let me ask you something. You really believe in Jesus? Oh, absolutely. My God, yeah, I do. But what did he mean when he said, these things I can do, you can do too, and even greater things? He said, yeah, I wish he had never said that. I mean, that's what it's all about, folks. So, go forth and populate.
Thank you, Barry. Let's have a time of meditation. Just a time to breathe, go to the heart space, and release whatever doesn't serve you, whatever is not resonating with your heart. And know that your divine wisdom, your higher self, guides the way on your path. And so with gratitude and with a sense of appreciation for all experience, all of our experiences in these bodies, in former bodies and future bodies, all our lifetimes, with soul groups, whether we recall them or not, we just know that we are on our right and perfect path. So let us just silently affirm, I am on my right and perfect path. I trust all things to come to me at the right time and in the right way. I am knowing my life is unfolding in perfect order for my highest good. And so let us just allow that to dwell in our heart space for a moment as we begin to close this time of meditation, as we prepare to go forward into the rest of this day and the rest of this week. Grateful and at peace. And so it is.